शतेषु जायते शूरः सहस्रेषु च पंडितः वक्ता दशसहस्रेषु दाता भवति वानवा.
Today we sit with a small verse that carries a very large question. What is truly rare in a human being? It comes from the great treasury of Sanskrit wisdom verses called the Subhashita Ratnabhandagara, the treasure house of jeweled sayings, and versions of it are also found in the teachings attributed to the ancient statesman Chanakya. Listen to it first. शेतेषु जायते शूरः सहस्रेषु च पंडितः वक्ता दशसहस्रेषु दाता भवति वानवा. Among hundreds of people, one hero is born. Among thousands, one scholar. Among 10,000, one true speaker. But a giver? A giver is born, or perhaps not at all. Let us walk through the words slowly. Sheteshu means among hundreds. Jayate comes from the root jan, to be born, to arise. Shura is the hero, the valiant one, the person who does not shrink when danger comes. So among every 100 people, the verse says, life produces one who is genuinely brave. Sahasreshu means among thousands, and Pandita is the scholar. The word comes from Panda, which means ripened wisdom, discriminating intelligence. A Pandita is not simply someone who has read many books. A Pandita is someone in whom understanding has actually dawned. That, says the verse, is a 1 in 1,000 event. Then, Vakta Dashasahasreshu. Vakta comes from the root Vach, to speak. Dashasahasreshu means among 10,000. 1 in 10,000 is a true speaker, not a talker. We have no shortage of talkers. A Vakta is one whose knowledge has become so alive in them that it flows out and lights a lamp in other minds. Knowledge held is rare. Knowledge that can be given voice and move hearts is rarer still. And now the verse does something beautiful. Notice the pattern. 100, 1,000, 10,000. Your ear expects the next line to say, among 100,000, a giver is born. But the poet refuses. Instead, he says, Data bhavati vanava. The giver comes to be, or does not. No number is offered, because no number is enough. You could search a city, a nation, a generation, and you might not find one. Generosity is off the scale entirely. Why? Think about the first 3 qualities: courage, learning, eloquence. Every one of them is magnificent, and every one of them benefits the person who has it. Courage wins battles and respect. Learning wins position and honor. Eloquence wins audiences and influence. But giving is the only quality on this list that, by its very definition, costs the one who has it. The hero conquers fear. The scholar conquers ignorance. The speaker conquers silence. But the giver must conquer something far deeper. The giver must conquer the feeling of mine. The Sanskrit word for that clinging is mamata, the grip of ownership at the very root of the ego. Fear visits us sometimes. Ignorance can be worn away by study. But mine is with us every waking moment, wrapped around everything we touch. That is why the Data is the rarest of all. There is one more secret hidden in the grammar. For the hero, the scholar, and the speaker, the verse uses the word jaayate, is born. But for the giver, it switches to bhavati, becomes. Heroes and geniuses are, in some sense, born. Circumstance and talent throw them up at intervals, and you cannot simply decide to be one. But a giver becomes. Giving is not a gift of fate, it is a decision, repeated and repeated until it turns into your nature. And this is the verse's hidden kindness. The rarest excellence of all is the only one that is completely open to you, starting today. India's great emblem of this verse is Karna from the Mahabharata. He was a mighty warrior, yes, but that is not what tradition remembers first. He is remembered as daanaveera, the hero of giving, the man who cut his own divine armor from his body simply because he was asked. Among hundreds of warriors and thousands of learned men at Kurukshetra, the true giver was one. And this insight is not India's alone. The Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote that giving money away is easy, but to give to the right person in the right amount at the right time for the right reason, that is not easy and not in everyone's power. Medieval Jewish wisdom built a ladder of 8 levels of charity and found the highest rungs nearly empty. And modern psychology agrees. Experiments show that truly selfless sharing is a minority behavior, and, strikingly, that generosity does not increase with wealth. Often, the richer the hand, the tighter the grip. The capacity to give and the willingness to give are two different things, exactly as our verse implies. So, how do we live this? Watch yourself the next time someone asks you for something: money, time, help, credit, forgiveness. Watch that very first second before your reasons and calculations arrive. There is often a tiny contraction, a subtle tightening. That contraction is mamta. That is the exact spot where the giver in you is either born or turned away. Here is a practice for this week. Call it the practice of the first yes. For 7 days, whenever a reasonable request to give comes to you, let your first answer be yes and give it the same day. Keep the gifts small: 5 minutes of help, a small donation, an introduction, a word of praise someone has earned. The size does not matter. What matters is the repetition of release, loosening the grip of mine, one small act at a time. Each evening, ask yourself gently, what was I asked for today? What did I feel in that first second? And what did it feel like after I gave? Shateshu jaayate shura, among hundreds, a hero. Sahasreshu cha pandita, among thousands, a scholar. Vakta dashasahasreshu, among 10,000, a speaker. Data bhavati vanava, but the giver, the verse leaves open. May it be answered in you. May the rarest of all beings quietly become you.
शतेषु जायते शूरः सहस्रेषु च पण्डितः वक्ता दशसहस्रेषु दाता भवति वानवा